Hey guys, tonight we walk straight into the Highlands, where mist rises like steam from the ground, swords flash brighter than the sun, and your enemies might live one field over. You'll feel the heather snagging your boots, the wind slicing through your cloak like it holds a grudge, and the weight of 1,000 years of grudges tucked into every stone wall you pass. Welcome to medieval Scotland. Part wilderness, part battlefield, all unpredictable. You'll want to sit down for this, not just because the air's thin and your legs might give out, but because what you're about to hear is the kind of tale that moves in spirals, not straight lines. People are born and buried within a few miles of one glen. Feuds outlast lifetimes. And yes, spoiler alert, you probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments, where are you tuning in from tonight, and what time is it where you are? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you feel isn't fear, it's cold. Scotland doesn't welcome you with trumpets or taverns. It greets you with fog that sinks into your boots and a wind so sharp it could flay a sheep. You're standing at the edge of a glen, mist curling at your ankles like it's sizing you up. You step forward. The ground squelches. Heather scratches your legs. A crow caws in the distance, probably judging your footwear. You pull your cloak tighter, though it doesn't help much. Cloaks here are more suggestion than protection. But you wear it anyway, because that's what everyone does. And you want to belong here, or at least survive. The sky never quite clears. It just shifts tones of gray. But you learn to read it, like whether a particular shade of pewter means rain, sleet, or turn back now. You pass your first cairn before breakfast. A pile of stones marking a death or a memory, or maybe just a really good sheepdog. No one explains. You don't ask. You meet your first clan by noon. They're not dressed like warriors, just rough wool, worn boots, a few blades visible beneath layers of homespun. But the way they stand, shoulder to shoulder, tells you everything you need to know. You nod. They nod back. You've passed the test. For now. Because here, the rules are older than laws. Family matters more than justice. Oaths are carved deeper than treaties. And grudges? Oh, they grow fat and happy here, passed down like wedding spoons. You make it to a village by dusk. A dozen thatched roofs huddled around a stream. Chickens scatter at your approach. A child stares, unblinking from a doorway. Someone hands you a bowl of something hot. You eat it without asking. It tastes like turnips, smoke, and a hint of defiance. You're in, but don't get too comfortable, because comfort is rare here. Tonight, they tell stories by firelight, not of dragons or kings, but of cousins lost in clan skirmishes, of forests that whisper at night, of a woman who once spoke with the crows and was never seen again. You listen, you memorize, not because the stories are entertaining, but because they might save your life later. The fire crackles. The wind hisses through the chimney. Somewhere outside, a dog howls, and someone else mutters, "That's not a dog." You sleep lightly. Your bed is straw. Your blanket smells like damp wool and history. You wake before dawn to the sound of bells. Not church bells. Warning bells. There's movement outside. Men grabbing weapons. Women corralling children. Old folks staring toward the hills like they already know what's coming. You follow their gaze. And there, across the moor, are riders. Not many. Maybe a dozen. But in the Highlands, a dozen is enough. They don't need an army. Just one grudge, freshly sharpened. The clan elder speaks fast, quiet. It's McLean's. They're early. You don't ask what that means. You grab a stick. It's all you're offered. You stand in the line, heart hammering. Your palms sweat despite the cold. And then, nothing happens. The riders approach. Look, turn, leave. Everyone exhales at once. No battle today. Just a reminder. The Highlands, don't forget. Later that morning, you follow a path out of the village. It winds through hills like a spilled ribbon. A man walks beside you, silent until now. Most who come here don't stay, he says. You nod. You understand. Because here, staying isn't about land or coin. It's about learning to breathe with the wind, to listen when the ground shifts, to remember names you've never heard spoken aloud. He tells you a fact. Just one. There's more stone in the Highlands than soil. That's why we bury shallow and remember deep. You nod again. You'll carry that. Then he adds, almost casually, some say the mist is souls that never left. But historians still argue whether that's myth or just weather. You smile, because deep down, you already know the answer, and maybe it doesn't matter. By midday, the sun tries to break through, fails, but you appreciate the effort. You find another cairn. This one's older, larger, marked with a spiral. You touch it and feel warmth. That shouldn't be possible. But the Highlands aren't interested in what should be. They're only interested in what is. You walk on, wind at your back, spirals in your thoughts. And somewhere, far ahead, bells ring again. But not in warning. This time, they're calling you forward. Dawn doesn't break here. It seeps, like weak tea. You wake to the same gray as yesterday, the same cold breath against your skin, and the same muffled hush outside, as if the hills are holding something back. You step out of the croft, boots squelching into the muck that's replaced the ground. The wind bites your cheeks and carries the smell of dung, smoke, and wet sheep. In other words, good weather. Your job today? Survive. Again. The chores are relentless. You mend the goat pen, swat away midges that seem more organized than your clan council, and try not to think about the knock at the door last night. Your sister hums while gutting a rabbit, and you envy her for that kind of focus. Or maybe it's denial. Historians still argue whether most peasant women in medieval Scotland had more agency than their English counterparts. But you know one thing for sure. Your sister's aim with a sling could end a feud faster than any bishop. The goats need milking, the oats need turning, and that weird cousin who talks to stones needs checking on. He's been quieter than usual, which is alarming. But it's not just survival work. There's ritual in it. You grind oats with your mother using a stone quern that's older than the kirk. She doesn't speak, but her hands move like prayer. Every circle of the stone is a word unspoken: protection, endurance, remembrance. And then it's time to pay the tithe. You gather a sack of oats, not your worst, but not your best either. It's a delicate balance. You walk the mile to the kirk, past the same rocks that look like sleeping dogs and trees that probably remember your great-grandfather's lies. The kirk itself is modest. Stone, moss-covered, probably held together more by habit than mortar. Inside, Father Dougal waits, not smiling, not angry, just waiting. He always wears that look, like he's trying to decide whether you're worth praying for. He takes the oats without a word. You bow your head. Not because he asked, but because it's what you do. Outside, a boy is whipping a hoop down the muddy road with a stick. His laughter is the only clean thing in the village. You almost smile. Almost. Later, back home, you pass your neighbor Fergus struggling with a stubborn cow. The cow's winning. You offer help. He grunts in thanks. That's practically a poem coming from Fergus. The cow kicks you both, but somehow the absurdity of it makes you laugh. Not much. Just enough to remember you can. Your father returns from the woods with a rabbit and a scowl. Says the McLeods were spotted on the ridge. Says he doesn't like it. Says a lot of things in a voice that only seems to get lower with each passing year. He sharpens his blade again. That evening, around the hearth, your grandmother tells a story. It's about a man who tried to outwit a banshee by pretending to be dead. It worked. Until he laughed. She ends it with a wink and a shrug, like maybe she's met a banshee or two in her time. You believe her. You go to sleep with her voice still echoing in your ears. But sleep in the glen isn't restful. It's more of a truce between exhaustion and fear. You dream of mist, of running barefoot through the bracken, of something watching you that never blinks. You wake to silence. No birds, no goats, just stillness. You creep outside. It's darker than it should be. Then you smell it. Smoke. Not the good kind. Not the hearth kind. The hot, angry kind. You run to the rise and look west. Orange. A croft is burning. You sprint back, breath catching, knees buckling. Your father is already awake, already dressed, already holding steel. He hands you a torch, not to light the way, but to signal. Your clan has a system. If they see flame on the ridge, they know it's time. And then you run. Not toward the fire. That's someone else's fate. You run to the gathering place, an old hollow, surrounded by pines. The air is cold and electric. You feel it in your teeth. Others are already there. Dozens. All grim-faced. All armed with what they could grab. Pitchforks, clubs, rusted swords passed down from ancestors who maybe weren't so good with them either. You stand beside a man named Lachlan, who once stole your fishing net. Tonight, he nods at you like you're kin. You nod back. No one mentions the net. A scout rides in, hoarse, foaming at the mouth. "McLeods," he pants. 5 of them, maybe more. Took the Ritchie's croft, burned it. You feel something like nausea, or rage, or both. The Ritchies have a baby, or had. Your laird steps forward, not a man of many words. "They want fire," he says. "We give them smoke." There's no cheer, no cry of vengeance, just the sound of blades being checked, of leather being tightened, of people turning into something they'll regret. You return to your croft, grab your grandfather's shield. It's cracked, splintered, and smells faintly of despair. But it's yours. You hug your sister, who hands you a small pouch of heather and whispers, "For luck, and for breathing." Your mother doesn't speak. She just pulls you into an embrace that feels like it's made of stone. Then she lets go. You join the others, and you march. The moon watches, the mist parts, the hills hold their breath. And ahead, just beyond the rise, someone else's fire still burns. You trudge through wet bracken under a sky the color of boiled bones. The world has gone muffled again. Every footstep, every whisper of wool against skin is swallowed by the glen. Somewhere behind you, a sheep bleats nervously. You don't blame it. If you could bleat right now, you would. The men around you move like smoke, silent, tight-jawed. There's no battle chant, no pre-fight cheer, just the squelch of boots and the occasional sound of someone swallowing a prayer. In front of you walks Fergus, his cow-kicked shoulder hunched slightly. To your left is a boy barely 15, clutching a hay fork like it might turn into a claymore if he believes hard enough. You reach the ridge. Below you, ruin. The Ritchie Croft is ash and ember, its walls collapsed inward like a house trying to disappear. You don't see bodies, not from here, just smoke rising in soft gray columns, the kind you get when wet wool burns. Your laird gives a signal, a sharp whistle. Everyone freezes. Then he points east. The MacLeods are still nearby, and you know what that means. You're not a warrior. Most of these people aren't. They're tanners, shepherds, smiths. People who prefer fireside stories to swordplay. But today, you're hunters. And the prey? A group of cousins who think taking a pig and burning a roof makes them brave. Historians still argue whether most clan raids were strategic or just personal. Standing here, heart racing, eyes scanning shadows, you suspect it's both. Because nobody forgets that one insult from a cousin's cousin 3 harvests ago, and nobody wants to be the one who didn't avenge it. You fan out through the trees. Your breath clouds in front of you like ghosts trying to speak. The wind shifts. You smell something before you see it. Ale, sweat, and roasted meat. You move closer. Down in the gully, near the river, the MacLeods are camped. 5 of them, just like the scout said, laughing. One is skinning a rabbit. Another is urinating into the water like he's marking it as his own. And there's the baby's rattle, hanging from a branch. A joke. You feel your stomach turn to iron. The laird doesn't wait. He signals. Downward palm, then closed fist. You all know the move. Learned it as children while pretending to be brave. The first man to strike is Lachlan, the same one who stole your net. He doesn't steal tonight. He lunges with a fury born of quiet grief, and his blade meets a MacLeod shoulder with a sound that makes you flinch. It's chaos after that. No form, no flair. Just wood hitting bone, metal clashing, screams swallowed by the trees. You do what you have to. You don't remember all of it. You remember a MacLeod swinging at you and missing. You remember jabbing your grandfather's cracked shield into someone's gut. You remember the boy with the hayfork crying. Whether in fear or rage, you can't tell. Then it's over. 4 MacLeods are down. 1 escaped, probably ran north, maybe to the kirk, maybe into a bog, maybe he'll freeze tonight. You don't care. You breathe. You count your fingers, all still attached. You look around. So is everyone else. Except Lachlan. He's lying by the river, breathing bubbles. A small wound. Stupid place, right at the hip. Could have been avoided if he'd waited. You kneel beside him. He looks up, smiles with cracked lips. Tell your mum I didn't mean to take the net, he says, and then he's gone. You carry him back. The return march is quieter, heavy. No one talks about victory. No one wants to. Back at the croft, your sister meets you at the edge of the field. Her eyes scan you. Limbs, blood, breath. She nods once, then pulls you into the kind of hug that squeezes both lungs and sorrow. Inside, your mother is kneeling by the fire. She doesn't ask questions, just hands you a bowl of broth and a strip of cloth for the gash on your forearm you didn't realize was bleeding. That night, the village gathers, not to celebrate, but to name the dead. Lachlan's name is spoken, twice, once by the laird, once by his aunt. That's the tradition. The more times your name is spoken the night after you die, the less likely you are to be forgotten. That's what they say. And the baby? Still alive. Somehow. A woman from the next village took her during the attack and ran barefoot across the stream to hide in the peat stacks. Her feet are torn, but she's smiling because she saved something. That's more than most people can say. Later, as the stars settle in and the fire crackles low, someone starts to sing. It's a lament, a song older than memory, about a boy who wandered into the mist and came back as a stag. No one speaks. They just hum along. You lie beside the hearth that night, sore, bruised, breathing in the smell of ash, broth, and thyme. And just before sleep claims you, you whisper Lachlan's name one more time, just in case no one else does. You wake with stiffness in your limbs and soot in your lungs. For a moment you think you've been turned to stone, like the cairns up the ridge, frozen mid-sorrow. But then your sister's elbow jabs your ribs and your joints crack like old twigs. You're alive. For now. Outside, the rain falls in that special Scottish way, horizontal. It doesn't pour so much as invade, dripping through thatch, down your neck, into places you didn't know could feel cold. But you're used to it. Water is part of life here. Sometimes blessing, sometimes curse. Always reminder. You trudge through mud to the kirk again. It's Sunday, and even the dead are expected to show up in spirit. The kirk's bell tolls once, flat and tired. Inside, the air is thick with peat smoke and reverence. Stone walls damp with centuries. Candles flicker like they're afraid of what's outside. Father Dougal is already at the altar, draped in wool and duty. His eyes sweep the congregation, mostly women, a few wounded men, children too fidgety to pretend they care. He begins with a prayer in Latin. You don't understand a word, but you mouth the sounds anyway, because that's what your grandfather did. And your grandfather wasn't a fool. The sermon today? Judgment. Naturally, it's always judgment after a raid. Those who shed blood, he intones, must answer to the Lord. You shift uncomfortably. A few others do too. Dougal's voice is steady, but his eyes land briefly on you, and Fergus, and the boy with the hayfork. Is he condemning, or just reminding? Historians still argue whether the church in medieval Scotland functioned more as a spiritual guide or a tool of political power. You suspect both, especially when Dougal pauses mid-sermon to mention that the tithe this month will include flax. Even divine grace needs new linen, apparently. After the service, you linger outside, warming your hands over the torch bracket by the door. A monk passes you carrying a sack of apples, bruised but still rarer than courtesy. He offers you one. You hesitate. Is this a trick or a test? You take it. Bite. It's soft and sour, but it's the closest thing to joy you've tasted all week. The rest of Sunday unfolds in its usual rhythm. Soup, stitching, stories. Your mother sits by the hearth mending Lachlan's tunic. He won't wear it again, but she says it's wrong to leave things unfinished. Your sister is carving a new handle for the soup ladle. Your father is silent. You take the sheep up the ridge for grazing. It's not far, but far enough to feel like escape. You sit beneath a crag, wind cutting at your cheeks, and stare out over the glen. From here, the village looks peaceful. You know better. Suddenly, movement near the trees. You tense, hand to your knife. But it's just a figure in robes. A monk. Strange, not from your church. He walks slowly, as if every step is weighed. You approach. He turns, eyes sharp despite the droop of age. "Are you the one who lit the signal fire?" You nod. He smiles, but not like a man pleased, more like one who knows the cost of fire. "Do you know how old this land is?" he asks. "How many names it has forgotten?" You don't answer. He continues anyway. "There were druids here once, before Kirk or King. They carved prayers into stone, not wood. Sang to the moon, not the cross. And they too believed they were eternal." You shift your weight. "What happened to them?" He shrugs. "What happens to everything? Time." Then he hands you something wrapped in cloth. You open it. A small stone carved with a spiral. "For remembrance," he says. "Not everything worth keeping has a name." And just like that, he's gone, disappearing into the pines like a thought you almost understood. Back at the village, you show the stone to your grandmother. Her eyes widen. She touches it like it's burning. "Keep that hidden," she whispers. "The Kirk doesn't like old gods being remembered." That night, your dreams are strange. The spiral glows in the dark. You walk through mist and fire and faces that don't belong to any clan you know. One woman hums a lullaby you've never heard, but somehow remember. You wake with that tune in your throat. At breakfast, no one speaks of dreams. That's a rule. But your sister hums the same melody while pouring water into the barley. You don't mention it. After the meal, you're sent to repair the church wall. Storms have cracked the cornerstones, and Father Dougal insists they be mended before the next rain. You work slowly, stone by stone, mortar by memory. Midway through, you notice something in the foundation. A carved mark, spiral-shaped, faint, half-buried, exactly like the stone the monk gave you. You cover it back up. Some truths aren't ready to be found. As dusk falls, bells toll again, not for service, but for warning. Riders spotted on the south trail, not MacLeod's, not familiar. You gather at the Laird's Hall. Plans form quickly. Scouting parties, signal codes, safe paths to the hills for women and children. But you notice something else. Father Dougal isn't with you this time. He's inside the kirk, door bolted, candles burning behind stained glass. You wonder who he's praying to. And you wonder if the land remembers more than he does. Morning is a grudging guest in the glen today. Light filters in through low clouds like it's unsure of its welcome. You stretch beneath a blanket that smells of old smoke and new fear. Outside, the village feels suspended, like breath held too long. The riders spotted last night haven't arrived. Yet. But everyone feels them coming. You help your father reinforce the door, not because it will stop anyone determined, but because it gives your hands something to do, something other than tremble. Your mother salts meat for hiding. Your sister sharpens the kitchen knife that, in recent weeks, has been used for everything except food. No one says the word siege, but you all think it. You're sent to fetch water. The stream is farther than usual, since the close one might be watched. You walk with caution. The trees feel nosier today. The wind keeps secrets just out of earshot. You grip the spiral stone in your pocket without thinking. At the stream, you spot hoofprints. Not fresh, but not ancient either. Wide, heavy. Whoever made them wasn't riding alone. They were hauling something. You dip your bucket quickly and turn back, but something catches your eye. A scrap of cloth caught on a thorn bush. Red. Not your clan's color. You leave it. Some things are better left to the brambles. Back home, the laird has gathered the able-bodied again. Fewer this time. Some are wounded. Some are missing. Some just stopped showing up. You recognize every face, every gap. This is what attrition looks like. The laird outlines the plan. Half the group will stay to defend the village. The rest will ride to the next glen to ask for reinforcements. You volunteer for the ride. Not out of courage. More like cowardice in disguise. Better to die moving than waiting. Your horse, if you can call it that, is old, damp, and unimpressed with your urgency. But she's loyal, and she's faster than walking. You set off with 3 others. Fergus, who smells like nervous bacon, Ewan, who hasn't spoken since his wife disappeared, and Moira, who shouldn't be here but wouldn't take no for an answer. The trail is narrow and clings to the cliff like moss. Below, the river rages, swollen from last night's rain. Moira rides ahead, hair braided tight, eyes scanning the trees with a hunter's calm. Halfway to the next glen, you pass a ruined outpost. Charred beams, collapsed stone, bones poking from the mud. This wasn't a raid. It was an erasure. Fergus crosses himself. Ewan just mutters something about wolves. You press on. Historians still argue whether these smaller outposts were abandoned due to plague, war, or simple economic collapse. You suspect it was something crueler. Indifference. Finally, you reach Glenfarra. It's bigger than your village. 36 crofts, 2 stone towers, even a tavern that doesn't smell like death. But it's also tense. You feel it the moment you arrive. Windows shuttered, guards at the gate, crossbows visible but not raised. You dismount. A man in chainmail approaches, gray-bearded, scarred, and bored. His tabard bears no clan symbol. A mercenary? A church soldier? Hard to say. You explain your village's situation. He listens, then says something that burns colder than rain. We've got our own worries. Moira steps forward. If your kin were burning, would you want silence? The man looks tired. If they were burning, I'd thank the storm. And just like that, you realize no help is coming. You sleep in the stables that night. The hay is warm, and the horses are less judgmental than the men. You and Moira stay up talking. She tells you she once saw a selkie on the shore, half woman, half seal. You pretend to scoff, but part of you believes her. At dawn, you try again. A different man hears your plea this time. He's younger, kinder, and missing 3 fingers. He promises to send word to his laird, but these things take time. You look at Moira. Time is the one thing your village doesn't have, so you ride back. Rain begins halfway. By the time you crest the final ridge, your hands are too numb to grip the reins. You see your village in the distance, and smoke, not rising from chimneys, from roofs. Your horse stumbles on the slope. You kick her gently. She understands. You ride faster than you ever have, closer now. You see figures running. Some are fighting, some are falling. You make out your sister's yellow shawl near the goat pen. She's alive. She's throwing stones. You reach the edge just as a stranger turns to face you, blade raised. You don't think. You knock him down. You don't stop. You find your mother by the well, clutching the rosary she never liked. You grab her. She grabs you. Neither of you says anything. Your father, nowhere. The door of your croft is ajar. The fire inside has gone out. You step through, blade in hand, heart in throat. And then you hear it, a sob. Your father, kneeling over something. You follow his gaze. It's a man, not from your clan. His sword is broken. his eyes wide open, seeing nothing. Your father is shaking. He didn't fight. You kneel beside him. The fire catches again, throwing shadows across the wall. In the corner, the spiral stone glows faintly in your pocket. You stay there a long time, until night returns. And with it, the reckoning. The night doesn't descend. It pounces. The last light is dragged from the sky like a curtain ripped from its rod, and suddenly the world is nothing but ash and breath. You crouch in the croft's doorway, gripping a blade that hasn't been cleaned since yesterday, watching the shadows for movement that might be human. Or worse. Your sister crouches beside you. Her face is smeared with soot and something that might be blood. Her eyes are dry, which is somehow more frightening than tears. Outside, the fighting has slowed, but not stopped. Bodies litter the path. You step around them, not looking too closely. One is wearing boots like yours. You keep walking. In the center of the village, the laird stands beside a makeshift pyre. Not for celebration, for warning. The attackers left just before dusk, perhaps fearing retaliation, or perhaps just because they got what they wanted. Historians still argue whether these raids were planned acts of conquest or chaotic bursts of opportunism. Tonight, you suspect it was something simpler. Cruelty, cloaked in tradition. You help gather the dead. There are too many for the churchyard, so they're laid in rows near the stream. You say their names. Some you knew, some you didn't. That part doesn't matter. Lachlan's aunt places a rock on each chest, a weight to keep them from rising in the mist, she says. You don't laugh. No one does. The laird calls for silence, then for a fire. The pyre is lit. Flames rise like truth, too bright, too fast, and far too late. You sleep on the ground that night, or you try. The earth is hard, but not as hard as what's in your chest. You dream again, of fire, but this time it's not destruction. It's a hearth, a camp, people gathered, singing, and someone, you, playing a tune on a carved flute. You've never played one before. Yet in the dream, your fingers know it like an old friend. You wake with the tune still on your tongue, and in the faint dawn light, you hum it. Your grandmother hears it. She turns, eyes narrowed. Where did you learn that? You shrug. I don't know. Dream. She stares at you. That song is older than the kirk, older than the clans. It was sung to call the dead home. You stop humming. Later you walk beyond the village, past the burnt-out fields to where the woods begin. You need to be away, just for a while. The trees don't judge. The brambles scratch you. But honestly, that's more comforting than silence. You reach a clearing where you used to trap rabbits. It's changed. Someone's been here. The fire pit is fresh. Stones are arranged, not randomly, but in a pattern. Spirals again. You sit. And after a moment, you realize you're not alone. A woman steps into the clearing, tall, hooded. She looks at you and says your name. You don't ask how she knows it. You just nod. She sits beside you, hands folded in her lap. Her voice is low and even. You've lost something, she says. You blink. Many things. She nods, as if expecting that answer. Then she holds out her hand. In her palm is a small wooden carving, a bird, a wren, perhaps. It's simple, but the detail is delicate. This is not a gift, she says. It's a reminder. A reminder of what? That there's still flight, even here. You take it. It's warm, though her hand was cold. When you look up again, she's gone. You return home quietly, the bird in your pocket. Your sister is boiling nettles. Your father is asleep, snoring like a distant thunderstorm. Your mother is praying again, this time louder. At dinner, no one talks about the raid. Instead, they argue about the goats. One is missing, probably taken, probably eaten. Your sister says she'll find it tomorrow. Your grandmother warns against wandering. The woods are listening, she says. Moira stops by that night. She has a cut on her cheek and a song in her throat. She sits beside the hearth, humming. It's the tune from your dream. You look at her. You too? She nods. I heard it when I was hiding. You don't ask where. You don't need to. The next day, the laird calls a council. The survivors gather. There's talk of sending envoys to the lowlands, talk of building walls, talk of vengeance. No one talks of peace. You speak up, voice hoarse but steady. We can't just wait to be broken again. They listen. It's not much, but it's more than silence. You're tasked with organizing defenses. You're no warrior, but you remember things. Where the bog begins, where the ridge breaks, where the sound carries farthest. You draw maps in the dirt. Others add to them. Soon, you have a plan. Not a strong one, but a plan. That night, your mother smiles at you for the first time in days. You're your grandfather's child after all, she says. You're not sure if that's a blessing or a burden. As you lie by the fire, clutching the carved wren and the spiral stone, you realize something has shifted. The danger isn't gone, but you're no longer just waiting. You're watching. You're remembering. And maybe, just maybe, you're becoming the kind of person this land won't forget. The first frost comes earlier than expected. You wake to a world powdered in white, each blade of grass tipped with crystal, like the glen itself has been holding its breath all night. You exhale into your cupped hands, watching the mist of your breath vanish. Too quickly, like most things in this place. Your sister curses the cold while cracking the ice in the water trough. Your father hammers flint near the door, muttering to himself about how winter always tests the weak. He's said it every year since you were a child. It still feels like a threat. But this year is different. Not just because of the raid or the deaths or the silence in certain crofts, but because of what people don't say anymore. The tension is no longer just about survival. It's about what comes next. You've become someone people turn to. You're not sure when that started or how you feel about it, but you can't ignore it now. Today, Moira joins you on the trail to the eastern ridge, where the brambles are thick and the earth hides better than any man could. You're scouting, yes, but also planting signs, subtle ones. You've carved small spiral symbols into stones and tucked them near the paths, not because you think they're magic, necessarily, but because some things should be remembered, and because signs once noticed make others cautious. Moira hums as she walks, same tune as before. It still makes the hairs on your arms rise. You ask her where she learned it. She doesn't answer, just smiles and says, "It's in the land." You find tracks, not human, boar, but fresh. Moira suggests a trap. You agree, but when she bends to anchor a snare, she finds something strange. A boot print, wide, deep, facing the village. You both freeze. It's not from your clan. You hide the trap, mark the trees, and turn back. The laird listens to your report with a frown. Could be scouts, he says. Could be nothing. Could be a test, you think. but don't say it aloud. You suggest watchers on the eastern ridge. He nods. That evening, the glen is wrapped in fog again, soft and glowing, like breath caught in a jar. The village moves slower in this quiet. A boy plays with a wooden sword, yelling names of warriors he's only heard in stories. His mother scolds him, not because of the noise, but because speaking names draws attention, even the wrong kind. You and your father sit by the fire. He hands you a bone-handled knife. Not new, not sharp, but his. He says little, just yours now. You nod. It feels heavy. Later you meet Moira near the kirk. She's brought something, a book. It's small, leather-bound, singed at the edges. She says she found it in the ruins of the outpost you passed on the ride to Glenfarra. You open it carefully. Inside, faded ink, Latin script, diagrams of plants, and something that looks like a star map. Moira thinks it belonged to a monk, or maybe someone older. You flip through it slowly, stopping at a page marked with a feather, a sketch of a bird, wren. Below it, 3 spiral symbols. Your heart skips. You take the book to your grandmother. Her hands tremble as she touches the page. This is not Kirk writing, she whispers. This is from before. She doesn't explain. She doesn't need to. That night, the village dogs bark for hours. The goats are restless. The wind changes. The next morning, the watchers report a fire in the east, small, controlled, like a signal. You ride out with Moira and 3 others. The path is familiar but different in the frost. The river is half frozen, groaning under its own weight. You reach the source of the fire, a ring of stones, a cooked pheasant on a spit, no footprints leading away. Whoever made it wanted it found. There's no sign of danger, no tracks, just warmth, intact, waiting. Moira says, "This isn't a warning." You agree. It's an invitation. You mark the stones and take nothing. The glen watches. Back home, your mother asks if the scouts returned. You tell her yes, but not like before. That night, the kirk bells ring, late, unexpected. You and others rush there. Inside, Father Dougal stands pale, sweat beading on his brow. The altar has been disturbed. The spiral is scratched into the wood. Everyone looks to you. Father Dougal doesn't accuse, doesn't bless. He simply says, "This place forgets too little." You don't sleep. You sit outside the croft, blade in your lap, spiral stone in hand, the carved bird on your belt. And you wait, because winter has begun, and winter remembers. You wake to snow, not the polite dusting of frost from days before, but a thick, wet blanket that hushes the world into stillness. The rooftops droop under the weight of it. Footprints vanish in minutes. Even the smoke rising from your chimney curls reluctantly, as if trying to sink back inside. You pull on boots stiff with cold and step outside. The crunch underfoot is satisfying in a grim sort of way. Everything feels quieter, but not calmer. The night was long. You barely slept. And when you did, the dreams were strange again. This time, a woman in blue robes standing in the river, holding a bowl full of stars. You don't know what it means. You don't ask. The village is sluggish this morning, the kind of sluggish that comes from more than cold. It's the exhaustion of a people running out of rituals. No new graves have been dug in days, but not because there's been no death. The ground is simply too hard. You help Fergus sharpen tools beside the byre. He says little, just grunts and gestures. You prefer it that way. Talking has become suspicious. When people speak too much now, it's either to mourn or to scheme. Father Dougal has retreated deeper into the kirk. He lights more candles than usual. He's replaced the altar cloth with one bearing a sunburst. Odd for this season. Historians still argue whether the medieval church borrowed sun motifs from older Celtic rites to ease conversion. You think it wasn't borrowing. It was theft. After midday, you meet Moira at the tree line. She's found another marker, another ring of stones, spiral in the center. This one pressed deep into the snow, untouched by wind or melting, like it was made elsewhere. She doesn't say anything at first, just hands you a bundle. Inside, a small leather pouch, cracked with age. Inside that, a coin. It's unlike any you've seen. Not silver, not bronze, a dull, heavy black. One side is blank, the other bears an eye. No letters, no symbols, just the eye. You both stare at it. Moira whispers, "This isn't MacLeod work." You nod. It's older. That night, you show it to your grandmother. She gasps, then crosses herself, twice, once the right way, once the old way. That tells you everything. "This is a watcher's coin," she says. "They were left at thresholds to mark those who saw beyond the veil." You try to laugh, but it catches in your throat. She touches your face gently. "The veil's thinning, child." And you keep walking toward it. You try to sleep, truly. But the dreams are louder now. In this one, you walk into the kirk and find it empty, except for Father Dougal, sitting in the pew, back to you. You reach him. He turns. His eyes are coins. You wake before he speaks. In the morning, the snow has stopped. The sky is pale and flat like old parchment. The laird sends for you. The council has met. They want answers. Not peace, not clarity, just answers. You explain the fire ring, the coin, the spirals, the book. You expect doubt. You get silence. Then the laird speaks. "This land has seen too many stories," he says. "Some we remember. Some remember us." He orders watchers doubled. The kirk is to be guarded, not just visited. He also makes a surprising announcement. A midwinter feast will be held in 3 nights' time. No weapons, no arguments, just light. Music, bread. You leave the council stunned. A feast? Now? But maybe that's the point. 3 nights pass quickly. Snow is swept from the meeting hall. Candles are lit. The bread is bitter but warm. Someone finds an old drum. Children dance without smiling. Adults pretend not to cry. Moira stands beside you, eyes scanning the room like a hawk. Your grandmother hums. Your sister tells a story you've heard 1,000 times. It still makes people laugh. And for a moment, just one, the village is not grieving. The feast ends late. People stagger home, weary but fuller than they arrived. You stay behind to help clean, and that's when you find it. On the chair where Father Dougal sat. Another coin, same eye, but this time it's open wider. You pocket it and say nothing. That night, you dream again. You're walking a path of coins. Each one stares at you. Each one whispers your name. You wake to snow. Not the kind that twirls gently through the air, piling in soft drifts like a lullaby. This snow has weight, purpose. It presses down on roofs, silences birds, and buries yesterday. You feel it in your bones before your eyes even open. The air in your lungs tastes like iron. You shift under the furs, already knowing something's wrong. You push open the door. It groans, protesting the ice wedged in its seams. And when it finally gives way, a gust of sharp wind slaps you in the face. And that's when you see them. Footprints, not yours, not your family's. They begin at the tree line, far beyond where anyone dares walk before dawn. and end at your doorstep. Clean, deep, singular. And then, nothing. No path leading back. You don't speak. You don't breathe. For a moment, even the wind holds its breath with you. Your sister steps beside you. Her voice is a whisper, but it cuts like frostbite. They came for you. You nod slowly, because deep down, you already knew. You spend the morning pretending to be useful, chopping wood, helping your grandmother sift dried roots, hauling water. But your thoughts keep drifting to the prince. Why just one set? Why so deep? Why you? The glen feels different. Not dangerous exactly, more like alert. Like the earth is listening again. At midday, the laird's scouts return. They combed the edge of the woods, followed the path out as far as the river, but found nothing. No second set of prints, no signs of approach, just yours and theirs. You sit by the hearth that night, carving a spiral into a scrap of driftwood. It's become a habit, though you're not sure why. Maybe it's comfort, maybe it's language. Your grandmother watches you with eyes that are too knowing. They left a calling card, she says. You glance up. That footprint. It wasn't just a visit. It was an invitation. To what? You ask. She doesn't answer. Later, you go to the kirk. You expect to find Father Dougal praying or asleep in the pews like usual. But tonight, he's pacing. He turns as you enter. I didn't do this, he says. You believe him. Then softly he adds, but it wanted to be seen. You leave before he starts quoting scripture. The truth is louder than any verse tonight. On your way back, Moira catches up to you. I found something, she says. Her voice is shaky, but determined. She unwraps a bundle from her cloak. Inside, another coin. But this one is different. The eye isn't open. It isn't shut. It's cracked, right down the center, like a mirror dropped onto stone. You stare at it, then at her. I didn't put it there, she says quickly. It was waiting on the sill of my window this morning. You nod. You both understand what it means. Later, you visit the child, Fiona, who disappeared for an hour during the feast. You find her by the stream, stacking pebbles into towers, humming softly. It's the tune again, that haunting melody that now lives somewhere between your bones and your breath. You kneel beside her. What did you see? You ask. She tilts her head. Her eyes are too old for her face. She waits in the river, she says. You try not to flinch. She said my name was written already, but yours is still being written. You blink. Who is she? The girl just shrugs. She has stars in her bowl and crows in her voice. The towers she's building fall all at once, every single one. That night you dream. You walk through a fog so thick, it chokes your throat. Beneath your feet, a path of black coins stretches forward, each one whispering your name. You can't turn around. There's nothing behind you but silence, the kind that feels like a mouth about to open. You keep walking. Ahead, a woman stands in the river, just like Fiona said. Her bowl is filled with stars. Her robe flickers like a crow's wing in moonlight. She says nothing, but you feel her gaze. You wake before she speaks. In the pale morning light, you gather your cloak and blade and return to the spot where the footprints ended. The snow is undisturbed now, erased by time or something older than weather. But something catches your eye. At the base of a tree, a cairn, 5 stones stacked with purpose. At its center, a single spiral carved into a round river rock. You crouch. There's something inside, a coin, cracked, but now it pulses with warmth. Moira meets you there minutes later. She doesn't speak, just crouches beside you and places her own coin on the cairn. The moment it touches stone, wind sweeps through the clearing, and the snow around you melts in a perfect circle. You look at her. She looks back. "I think we're being told to listen," she says. You nod, or remember. You return home in silence. That evening, Father Dougal calls a gathering. He stands not at the kirk, but at the standing stones near the hill, where rituals were once held long before the church came. "I have no sermon," he begins. "Only a choice." He gestures to the sky. It's been 30 nights since the feast. 30 nights of silence. 30 nights of signs. He holds up a cracked coin. They've been coming for generations, and each time we bury the truth, in dirt, in doctrine, in denial. People murmur. One man shouts, "What do they want?" Dougal's voice is calm. "To be seen." And then you speak, before you know why. They're waking the ones who still remember. Silence, then a quiet voice. "So what do we do?" And Moira, standing beside you, says softly, "We remember too." The meeting ends without resolution, but not without understanding. Something has begun. Not a war, not a miracle, a reckoning. You return home, and your grandmother hands you a leather pouch. Inside, a coin of her own. The eye is closed. She kisses your forehead. "It opened for me once," she says. "I didn't follow, but you will." You sit alone by the fire. The wind howls outside, but inside it's quiet. You hold the cracked coin in one hand, the spiral stone in the other. And you wait, because something has stepped into your glen, and it has not yet left. Morning comes wrapped in mist, not the gentle kind that dances over fields and dew kisses grass. This mist feels old, intentional. It rolls through the village like smoke through a battlefield, quiet, slow, curling into corners where whispers go to rot. You rise early, before the others, before the kettle whistles. You step out into the cold, still holding the cracked coin in your palm. It's warm again, not from your body heat. It pulses faintly, like it's remembering something. At the far edge of the village, 3 robed travelers wait. They didn't knock, didn't announce themselves. They simply arrived. The laird sent scouts to stop them. None returned harmed, but none could explain why they turned back either. The travelers were let in, watched with more suspicion than even the MacLeods got during the feud years. Some think they're priests from the south. Others say witches. The truth? They don't act like either. No chants, no relics, no sermons, just notebooks, silence, and patience. You bring firewood to their hut. It's an excuse, but no one stops you. Curiosity is your cloak these days. Inside, the tallest of the 3 welcomes you with a nod. The interior smells like cedar and parchment. Symbols, spirals, eyes, birds mid-flight have been scratched faintly into the floor. At first glance, it looks chaotic, but when you squint, you see a shape forming, a kind of map. Of what? You ask aloud, forgetting your manners. The tall one answers with a voice like a lullaby soaked in ash. Memory. You raise an eyebrow. He offers you tea, which you decline. Something about drinking in this room feels like making promises you don't understand. He sees the coin in your hand. You didn't mean to show it, but there it is. He steps forward, gently takes it, and examines the crack. "This is rare," he murmurs. "They don't break unless something listens too hard, or listens back." You blink. What does that mean? He doesn't answer. Instead, He reaches into his satchel and pulls out a carved disc. Black stone, a figure etched in the center, cloaked, arms raised, surrounded by crows. You've never seen this symbol before. They're called witnesses, he explains. They appear when the land forgets itself. They don't speak prophecy. They are prophecy. You laugh nervously. So, I'm supposed to be one? He tilts his head. Not yet. Back outside, the village is stirring. Someone spotted a spiral carved into the barn wall. Another found a string of dried crow feathers tied to their door. One family left before breakfast, claiming the land was cursed. No one stopped them. By mid-morning, a horn sounds. The laird is calling a gathering. It's urgent. You make your way to the old meeting circle, the one built from standing stones long before the kirk existed. The travelers are there, standing slightly apart, but not hiding. The laird stands tall, wrapped in his wolfskin cloak. His expression is unreadable. Another monastery has burned, he announces. To the west, blackened stone, no survivors. And this, he holds up a charred plank of wood, burned with the same spiral carved into it. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Dougal steps forward. He's pale, tired, but not afraid. He speaks without preamble. They're not attacking, they're clearing, removing what's in the way. Not people, ideas, walls, silences. The laird frowns. So what? You want us to do nothing? Moira steps up beside you. Maybe we should do something else, like listen. The crowd erupts. Fear buzzes through the air like bees in a shaken hive. Some shout about heresy. Others demand the travelers leave. You notice Fiona, the little girl from before, clutching her mother's hand, still holding a coin, still humming. The laird bangs his staff. Silence. He turns to the tallest traveler. Speak your truth, now. The traveler steps forward. He doesn't raise his voice. Your glen was chosen because it remembers. In stone, in blood, in song. It carries more than sheep trails and graves. It carries the echoes. He opens his satchel. Inside, coins. Dozens. Some with closed eyes. Others wide open. A few cracked like yours. These aren't currency, he says. They're keys. You step forward. To what? The traveler locks eyes with you. Doors you've already walked through, but never noticed. The crowd stares. The laird remains still for a long time. Then, unexpectedly, he nods. You'll stay, but watched. The crowd murmurs, but no one protests. That night, you find Dougal at the river. He sits on a stone, staring into the dark water. I used to think faith was a ladder, he says. Climb high enough and you'll see the light. You sit beside him. And now? Now, I think it's a mirror, cracked, and we're just choosing which shard to bleed on. You don't reply. The moon is rising, and something about it feels wrong, too full, too close. Then you hear it, a hum, not from Fiona, from the river. You stand, and she is there, the woman from your dream, only this time, not in shadow or mist. She stands waist deep in the black water, robes trailing like seaweed, face hidden beneath a veil of silver thread. In her hands, the bowl of stars. She lifts it, tilts it, and one falls out, into the river, into light. Then she turns and disappears beneath the water without a ripple. Dougal sees it too. He crosses himself, but not the new way, the old way. You return to the village in silence. No one else saw her, but they feel it, in their bones. The next morning, the travelers are gone. Their hut is empty. No footprints, no scent of fire, just one coin. On the doorstep, cracked, still warm. The frost breaks. You wake to the sound of dripping water, steady, rhythmic, unnerving. A thaw has begun, but it's the wrong season. Too early. The sun is still weak, and the mountains still carry their icy crowns. Yet the snow slides off rooftops in slushy chunks, and rivulets of meltwater carve new paths through the mud. This isn't spring. It's a shifting. You step outside, and the village smells like wet wool and nervous anticipation. The travelers are gone, but the silence they left behind hasn't filled. If anything, it's grown wider, heavier. People speak in whispers again. Some have started sleeping with their doors bolted and their blades tucked under pillows. The cracked coin you found still pulses, faintly warm. You've taken to carrying it everywhere, like a talisman, or maybe a warning label. Moira says hers stopped glowing. You check again. Yours hasn't. At midday, a stranger arrives, on foot, alone, hooded. He doesn't speak when he enters the glen, just heads straight to the standing stones. You follow from a distance, curiosity outweighing caution. He kneels at the base of the tallest stone and places something at its foot. A handful of bones, tied together with red thread. Then he speaks, not loud, but clear. The debt must be remembered. You inhale sharply. Mainstream history says that during the late 14th century, small Scottish communities often used bones in ritual to mark oaths or memorials. But this isn't about memory. It's about debt. And you have no idea what was borrowed or by whom. When you step closer, the man vanishes. You blink. Once, twice, gone. No tracks, no sound, just the bones left behind. You take them, carefully, like glass, and bring them to Dougal. He doesn't even ask where you got them. Just sighs and begins boiling water. These are chicken bones, he mutters. Knotted in the old way, blood offerings probably, to seal a bargain or break one. You nod. Which are we doing? He shakes his head. That depends on who remembers it first. The next few days blur. You begin to notice odd patterns, animals walking in circles, bread rising without yeast, children waking with strange phrases on their lips, phrases in dialects that haven't been spoken in your glen for generations. One boy says in perfect Old Norse, "The earth sings backwards now." His mother faints. Moira begins sketching her dreams, spirals again, but layered with symbols you don't recognize. A sun split in half, a river climbing uphill, a face made of moths. You dream too, but it's not the river woman anymore. It's a black staircase, descending endlessly, lined with masks. Each mask is your face, but older, cracked, smiling when it shouldn't. You wake drenched in sweat. The next morning, Sioris's old journal disappears from the kirk. No break-in, no broken locks, just gone. In its place, a feather, not black, but iridescent. Blue-green, like oil on water. No bird in the glen carries feathers like that. You begin to wonder if something is unsealing itself. A boundary, maybe. Or a memory that no longer wishes to stay buried. Historians still argue whether medieval Scottish folklore was just a coping mechanism during waves of plague and political upheaval. But what if the stories were never metaphor? What if they were recordings? You and Moira decide to visit the cairns, not the ones by the river, but the old ones higher up, the ones no one speaks of. They sit like broken teeth along the ridge, half buried, forgotten, except not forgotten, because when you reach them, they've been cleared. Snow melted around them in perfect circles, stones arranged into new formations. At the center, a tree branch, standing upright, wrapped in spiral carvings, and at its base, bones, human. You don't speak for a long time. Finally, Moira says, "They're marking something." You nod, or preparing it. On the way down, you see Fiona again. She's walking alone, singing, not humming, singing, words you don't know, language you've never heard, but you understand it. Every syllable feels like home and exile at the same time. You try to stop her, but she looks up and says, "Don't worry." She says you're still on time. Then she skips away. That night, the stars move. You swear it. Not just a meteor or a trick of cloud. They realign, form a spiral, and then blink out, one by one, like closing eyes. You sit by the fire, cracked coin on the table. It is glowing now, not faintly, bright and warm. And for the first time, you're not afraid of it. The next morning, the cracked coin is cold again, not dead, just resting. Like something that has retreated inward, waiting for the right question before it dares speak again. You tuck it back into your pouch, and as you do, you realize it's not alone. There's a second coin. You didn't put it there. This one is smooth, no eye, no spiral. Just polished black stone, perfectly round, like a period at the end of a sentence you didn't know you were writing. You show it to Moira. She turns it over in her hands, then frowns. It's not blank, it's just asleep. That word sticks with you all day. Asleep. The glen has become quieter than usual. Not peaceful, anticipatory. Even the animals seem to understand something's coming. The sheep stay near the barns. The dogs growl at shadows they never used to notice. And the crows? Gone. Not a single one in the sky for 3 days now. Which is weird, because in Scottish lore, crows never leave. They follow, they remember. And when they vanish, it usually means someone else is watching. You hike to the ridge, not for answers, just to see what's changed. It doesn't take long. One of the cairns you visited last week has collapsed, not toppled, just taken apart, deliberately. The stones are stacked neatly to one side, and in their place, a ring of salt, thick, white, fresh. Someone made a circle. You step near it and the air tightens, like entering a room mid-argument. You hold your breath and walk the perimeter. Once, twice. On the third pass, you see it. A figure. Not real, not fully. More like a silhouette made of heat. Shimmering, faceless, female. She stands in the center of the salt ring, motionless, watching you, or waiting. You don't step in. Instead, you whisper, "What do you want?" She raises her hand, points at your pouch. Then she vanishes. No warning, no farewell, just gone. You don't return home directly. You sit for a while at the riverbank, watching the water move too fast for this time of year. The melt should be slow, gentle. This is hunger. Back in the village, people have noticed something new. The bells don't ring. You've had bells here forever, small iron ones above doors, hung to ward off wandering spirits. They ring with the wind, with footsteps, with laughter. But now, silent. You lift one from your doorway, still there, still intact, but the clapper is missing. You check others, all the same. It's as if something has gone through the village in the night, plucking out every voice but its own. Dougal meets you near the kirk. He's tired, older somehow, not sick, just spent. "Do you remember," he says quietly, "when we used to think prophecy was fire and lightning?" You nod. He gestures to the sky. Turns out it's frost and silence. You both laugh. You have to. Then he hands you something wrapped in cloth. You open it slowly. A page from Seoris's journal. You recognize the handwriting. It's your grandfather's. A passage you hadn't seen before. The witness is not a prophet. They are a mirror. Show them truth, and they echo it. Show them lies, and they bleed. You swallow hard. Then you notice the date. It's today's. Exactly. You glance at Dougal. He shrugs. Found it on the altar this morning. No idea how. Moira joins you that evening with news. The laird is planning to leave. Not just him, half the village. They're scared, understandably, and they think distance might save them. You know better. This thing, whatever it is, isn't in the land. It is the land, the memory, the rhythm, the forgetting and remembering. It's all part of the same heartbeat. You can't outrun something that lives in your footsteps. Still, you watch the families pack. Children crying, carts creaking, dogs whining at doors they're not allowed back into. Moira asks if you want to go. You shake your head, because you can't. You walk to the standing stones one last time, place the blank coin in the center, whisper, "I'm still listening." Then wait, and wait, and then wind. It rushes past you, into the trees, through the stones, around the cairns, down the mountain, and into the glen. A spiral of air, a whispering breath, and you hear it. 3 words, not from a mouth, but from the world itself. She is near. You close your eyes and say, "I'm ready." The coin at your chest warms again. You wake before dawn, and for the first time in days, your breath fogs inside the house. The window is laced with frost, but not random. It spirals outward in repeating arcs, like fingerprints, or a message written in cold. Outside, the world is too still. Even the wind seems hesitant, as if the trees asked it to hold back until you were ready. Moira knocks once and whispers through the door, "She's come again." You're already pulling on your boots. At the river, there's no sound but the rush of water under ice. A thick mist rises off the surface, hanging just above the current like it's afraid to touch the banks. And she's there. Not a vision, not a dream. She stands on the far side, tall, veiled, robed in a fabric that looks more like shifting feathers than cloth. Her face is hidden, but you feel her watching. Not with eyes, with gravity. She raises her bowl, the same one, wide as your chest, deep as your grief. This time, it's full, not of stars, but of shards, fragments of coins, some etched with eyes, some blank, some cracked jaggedly down the middle. A few still glow faintly, like coals refusing to die. You step closer, not out of bravery, but recognition. You know what comes next. You reach into your pouch and pull out the cracked coin. It pulses one last time, then stills. You drop it into the bowl. It sinks. The woman tilts her head, just slightly, like a nod, or a question answered. Then she opens her palm, and something rises from the bowl. Light, vapor, memory. It drifts across the water toward you. You don't flinch. When it touches your skin, you see everything at once. The cairns being built, hundreds of years ago, by hands like yours, but older and more certain. The stones stacked in silence, not to mark the dead, but to remember the living. A woman, kneeling at a river's edge, whispering lullabies to the current, feeding it coins that glow like fireflies, and spirals, always spirals, carved into doors, baked into bread, inked behind the ears of infants before they're named. You fall to your knees, not from pain, from weight, because suddenly you're not just in the glen. You are the glen, and the glen remembers. When your eyes open again, she's gone. Moira is at your side, hands steadying you. She says nothing, but her face tells you she saw something too. Not the woman, but the change. The river runs faster now, as though time itself has been nudged forward. That evening, Dougal calls what's left of the village to the kirk. Less than 30 of you remain, but no one fidgets, no one looks at the door. You're all listening. Dougal lights a single candle, then another, then another. He places them in a spiral on the floor. I was taught to fear prophecy, he says, to treat it like a test, one where the questions are traps and the answers come too late. He kneels, but maybe prophecy isn't a test. He lights the last candle. Maybe it's just a memory trying to be heard. Silence. Then Moira steps forward. She holds up the map the travelers left, the one etched into leather and inked in red ochre. You've stared at it before, but now you see it. It isn't a map of where to go. It's a map of what's inside. The spirals aren't destinations, they're doorways, and each coin was a key. She unrolls a second piece of parchment, a rubbing she took from the base of one of the cairns. It's an eye, not open, not shut, mid-blink, and beneath it the phrase, "We are what returns," a phrase that shouldn't make sense. But everyone in the room understands it. An old man speaks. The stories our grandparents told, of the river woman, of the singing sheep, of the bells that rang themselves. Another adds, we called them tales, but maybe they were echoes. You look around and realize no one wants to run anymore, not because they're brave, but because they've remembered. That night, the bells ring again, not from wind, not from hands, from something older, not louder, just older. One chime from each house, at the exact same moment, even the homes long abandoned. You step outside, above, the stars have shifted. Again, this time they spiral inward. And then, for one heartbeat, they all blink out. Darkness. You wait. And then, light, not from the sky, from the ground. The cairns are glowing, each one a slow ember, pulsing like breath. You follow the trail uphill. You're not alone. Dougal, Moira, Fiona, others. You arrive at the ridge just as the final cairn flickers into brilliance. And there, in the center, sits a new bowl, stone, empty, but not lifeless. You kneel, and without speaking, place your hand inside it. Warmth floods your veins. You hear a voice, not hers, yours. You are the spiral now, not a destination, a rhythm, a remembering. Back in the village, the sheep begin to sing again. Software droning, harmonious, the melody older than fire. Moira leans close. We've become what they couldn't burn. You don't answer, because there's nothing to say, only to carry. The fire has changed. You notice it first when you wake, the way the flames move, not in flickers, but in spirals, a slow curling dance that winds inward, not up. It's not brighter, just focused, as if aware that you're watching. And when you look away, it steadies like it knows it's been seen. You don't tell Moira. You don't tell Dougal. Instead, you keep your eyes on it, wondering if maybe this is how the glen has always burned, and you just forgot how to notice. Outside, the wind returns, not harsh, but purposeful. It whistles a new song through the trees, not the lullaby you heard before, not the melody Fiona hummed. This one is sharper, urgent, like a warning, or a drumbeat before a storm. That morning, Moira meets you by the standing stones, carrying the black leather satchel left behind by the travelers. Inside, she's found more than maps. There are drawings, hundreds of them, each page layered with detail, spirals, coins, cairns, people, faces. One page shows you unmistakably, standing by the river with a cracked coin in your palm and the woman behind you, her bowl held high. Moira flips to another page. It shows the cairns fully restored and around them, 12 people seated in a circle. 11 you do not recognize. One of them is Fiona. "She's one of them," Moira whispers. You nod. "So are we." You turn the page again. This one is blank. But when you blink, a faint outline appears, like dust remembering where it once settled. A spiral, open at the center, as if inviting something to step through. Suddenly, you realize this satchel isn't a record of the past. It's a manual for the present, and maybe a prayer for the future. That night, Dougal calls a circle at the cairns. No speeches, no blessings, just candles, 12 of them, lit and placed evenly between the stones. One for each person drawn in the journal. Everyone arrives except Fiona. The moment her name is spoken, you hear it. The hum, not in your ears, in the stones. The cairns vibrate. You press your palm to one. It pulses, a rhythm. 1, 2, 3. Pause. 1, 2, 3. Moira counts softly. Heartbeat. Dougal murmurs, "Not ours." The fire in the center of the circle shifts, from orange to gold, then to a color you can't name, something between stormlight and memory. The bowl from the ridge has been placed in the middle, empty still, but watching. You all sit, and for the first time in this long, unraveling story, no one speaks. You listen, and the glen begins to speak back. Wind carries phrases long buried, names you've never said aloud, memories not your own. A woman sobbing, a child laughing, a man whispering, "I'm sorry," again and again to no one at all. Each voice floats in and fades. Then Dougal lifts his hand. From his pouch, he pulls a stone, a coin, not cracked, not blank, but open. He places it in the bowl. It doesn't sink. It floats. Others follow. One by one, 11 coins are added, each different. Some etched, some smooth, some black as night. When yours goes in, it shines for a moment. Not bright, just final. The bowl fills. The air thickens. The candles extinguish one by one, like breaths being taken away. And then she's there, the woman of the river, but not veiled now. Her face is human. Yours. Not exactly, but enough. Lines like yours, eyes like yours, scars like ones you've hidden for years. She smiles, and for the first time, it's not distant. It's kind. "You've done what they could not," she says. "You remembered." Moira breathes in sharply. "You were us," she says. The woman nods. "I am everyone who listened." Then she places her hands into the bowl. The coins dissolve. In their place, something rises. 12 sparks. Each floats to a different person in the circle. When the spark touches your chest, you feel warmth, then cold, then nothing, and then everything. You remember your mother's voice. You remember the storm that took Seoris. You remember your first kiss, and the last lie you told, and the night the stars blinked out, and the first time you bled. You remember the glen remembering you. The woman steps back. She begins to fade, but before she's gone, she whispers, "The spiral never ends. It only tightens." And then the cairns go dark. The night returns. Moira exhales. "It's done," she says. You shake your head. Number. It's beginning. The next day, the glen is different. Not in shape, not in color, in texture. It feels awake. You notice the grass grows a little faster. The river no longer murmurs. It sings. The sky holds stars you've never seen before, and they spiral inward when you blink. The bell on your door rings again. Once, twice. You open it to find Fiona. She's holding a coin. Not cracked, not etched, just hers. And in her other hand, a sprig of heather. "From the ridge," she says. "It bloomed overnight." You look past her. The hillside is purple. Moira joins you, and together, you walk up toward the cairns again. Because now, they aren't just markers of death. They're instructions of how to live with memory and not forget again. It begins with a dream. You are kneeling beside the cairns, but they are no longer stones. They're mouths, open, silent, waiting to be fed. The wind doesn't blow, it speaks. Each gust carries syllables from forgotten tongues. You don't understand the words, but you understand their meaning. They are asking a question. Will you carry us further? You wake before dawn, heart echoing the cadence of the wind. The fire is still burning. You haven't tended it in hours, but it hasn't dimmed. It's moved, now spiraling in the opposite direction, like it's rewinding. Outside, the glen is quiet, too quiet. You walk out and notice every door in the village is closed, not latched. Closed, even the homes of the departed. The air smells faintly of rain, though no clouds hang above. Instead, the sky gleams with stars, more stars than you've ever seen. Some blink, some drift, and unmistakably, some form spirals. Moira meets you at the edge of the river. She looks older today, not worn, just finished with waiting. "I heard them too," she says. "You don't ask who. You already know." Together, you follow the river upstream, not to the ridge, but beyond, past where the paths end, past where anyone's dared to walk since the plague years. You reach the hollow, the hidden place. There, a circle of stones you've never seen, larger than the cairns, taller than the kirk, covered in moss and markings, spirals upon spirals, etched into the granite with precision only time could manage. At the center stands a tree, or what's left of one, charred, hollowed, still alive. Its branches move even without wind. At its roots, a bowl, the same bowl, stone as before, but now it hums. Moira kneels beside it. She draws from her satchel a coin, a new one. You didn't see her make it. You didn't see anyone make it. She places it in the bowl. It glows for a moment, then melts into mist. She looks at you. Your turn. You reach into your pouch, and for a moment, panic sets in. It's empty. But then you remember. The coin was taken, dissolved, carried forward. You have nothing left to offer. You kneel anyway, place your palm over the bowl, and whisper, "I remember." The tree shifts. Its branches stretch upward. The sky darkens, but not with storm. With birds, crows, hundreds, maybe thousands, circling, not ominous, not predatory, just present. They land on the stones, on the tree, on your shoulders. You don't flinch. You belong here now. Moira speaks softly, but you hear her as if she's in your chest. They weren't watching us. They were waiting for us to watch them. That night, you returned to the village, not to warn, not to teach, to build. You and Moira gathered the others. Not all stayed, but enough. Each person carries something forgotten, an heirloom, a phrase, a melody, a dream. You write them down, not on parchment, on stone. The cairns grow taller, stronger. Each one now holds not a grave, but a story. A child carves her mother's laugh into sandstone. An elder hums a tune from when the bells still rang freely. You take Sioris's final note and tuck it between stones at the base of the tree, miles away. The tree hums. You hum back. Every night for a week, Fiona brings heather, each bloom different, each placed at the center of the bowl. One night, the blooms catch fire, but don't burn. They glow. And you realize this is not the end of forgetting. It's the beginning of practicing memory. You ask Dougal what happens next. He smiles, lines around his eyes soft with peace. We keep lighting the spiral, he says. Every generation, every silence, every time someone forgets, we remind. Moira adds. And when they stop listening? You all look to the cairns. They shimmer in the moonlight. And the bowl? Empty again, ready. You understand now. This story never belonged to one person or one people. It was always meant to return, over and over, to knock on doors, to ring bells, to hum lullabies in rivers and carve spirals into windows just cold enough to hold breath. You walk the glen one last time before sleep. The fire at your hearth dances lazily, warm and familiar. The stars above spiral inward, and the wind, no longer urgent, whispers not warnings, but names, yours among them. Morning comes not with sunlight, but with music, low and layered like dozens of flutes playing just beneath the edge of your hearing. You sit up in bed, eyes still foggy with sleep, and for a moment, you wonder if it's another dream. But then you notice, every cup in the house is vibrating, not rattling, not shaking, just singing. You step outside and find the entire glen wrapped in sound. It's not music in the traditional sense. There are no instruments, no rhythm, just tone, harmonics that seem to rise from the soil itself. Some villagers stand barefoot, toes pressed into earth as if trying to hear more clearly. Others are crying, softly, like the sound has reminded them of something they forgot they missed. And above it all, the tree, the one you found in the hollow. It has bloomed, not in leaves, in light. Pale ribbons unfurl from its limbs, drifting lazily in the air. When they brush against a shoulder or a hand, they leave behind warmth and, strangely, a word. Not spoken, not seen, known. Yours is tether, Moira's is weave, Dougal's is echo. You don't share the words aloud, but somehow you all know each other's. By noon, the humming fades, but the silence left behind is not empty. It is fertile. You gather at the kirk, not because anyone called a meeting. You're just drawn there, one by one. There, in the center aisle, lies a new map, spirals, wider now, as if stretched across the whole of Scotland. Cairns you've never seen marked with tiny gold dots. A trail, not forward or backward, inward. Fiona walks in last, holding something wrapped in sheep's wool. She opens it. Inside is a bone flute. You stare at it. Not because it's beautiful, but because you recognize it from your dream. Moira touches it gently. Where did you find it? Fiona blinks. It found me. The next week passes like a season. The weather forgets to be cold. Children no longer fear the woods. A woman who lost her voice after the Black Death speaks again, only once, and only to say, she says we're almost ready. No one asks who she means. You begin visiting the cairns daily, not out of duty, out of habit. You leave tokens, bits of bread, pieces of coal, a feather, a line from a song you haven't heard since childhood. The cairns don't respond, but the air around them shifts, sometimes warmer, sometimes sharper, always aware. One night, while sitting beside the oldest cairn, Moira leans close. They were never tombs. You nod. They were receivers. She sighs. Then what are we? You think for a long time, then say, maybe we're the broadcast. You both laugh, but neither of you is really joking. Back in the village, a traveler returns. One of the original ones. The quiet man with the limp. His beard is longer, eyes more sunken. He says nothing, just kneels by the fire and places a coin in your hand. It's yours, the one that dissolved in the bowl. It's whole again, but different, etched now with the image of a spiral unwinding. Beneath it, a word. Begin. You glance up, but he's already gone. Moira turns the coin over in her hand. That's not a message. You nod. It's an instruction. That night, you gather everyone in the kirk again. You place the coin in the center of the spiral on the floor. This time, the spiral doesn't just glow. It moves. Outward. Around the room. Up the walls. Across the ceiling. The walls tremble. Dust falls. But no one runs. You all just stand, hands clasped, breath held. Then the kirk falls silent. Not quiet. Silent. You speak the word aloud. Begin. And the floor splits open. Not violently, not destructively. It parts, revealing a chamber below none of you ever knew was there. Inside, bones. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Each one laid with care, wrapped in cloth, marked with symbols. Some of the symbols you recognize. Some you've etched into bread crusts without knowing why. Some have no name. But the moment you see them, you understand. These are the ones who remembered before you. This was not the first time the spiral was forgotten, nor the second, nor the 12th. You kneel. Touch one of the cloth bundles. It hums. A word enters your mind. Anchor. Moira places her palm beside yours. Another word. Witness. Everyone places a hand. Each of you hears a word. Some cry, some smile, some kneel and whisper thanks. Above you, the spiral begins to fade. Not out of loss, but fulfillment. Its glow retracts, resting back into the floor like a candle satisfied with its burn. The chamber stays. It always has. You were just too loud to hear it before. You rise, coin in your palm. One last message is etched now. Spiral returned. You may go forward, but you don't leave the kirk. Not yet. You stay, with the others, listening, not for prophecy, not for warning, just for memory, and for the moment when memory becomes movement. You've lost track of how many days have passed, not because of confusion, but because time has started to behave differently in the glen. It no longer moves in straight lines or neat boxes. It folds, loops, spirals. You wake before the sun rises and fall asleep when the moon is still climbing. The stars no longer wait for nightfall. Sometimes they shimmer at midday, tiny defiant lights in a too blue sky. You start marking the days not by numbers, but by events. Like today. Today, the river flowed backward, just for a moment, just enough for everyone to notice. The fish didn't panic. The birds didn't flee. The world didn't crack open. It simply reversed, as if to remind you. Not all forward movement is progress. Moira said nothing when she saw it. She just sat on the bank, eyes half closed, letting the current lap over her fingers. Later, you find her carving a spiral into the wood of her door. Not decoration, not art, a seal, to keep memory in, and something else out. You ask her what she felt. She shrugs, like I was being unforgotten. The word settles heavy in your chest, because it fits. Around that time, the crows start returning. Not all at once. A few at first, perched on the ridge. Then dozens, lining rooftops like black punctuation marks. But they don't caw. They watch. And they follow. Wherever you walk, they gather. Perched, silent. You test it. You walk a slow spiral in the village square. By the second loop, they begin to mirror you, moving clockwise around chimneys, branches, and walls. You stop. They stop. You reverse direction. They reverse. No chaos, no confusion, just reflection. Dougal sees it too. He calls it the mirrored flock. You wonder if this is what the monks once meant by divine witness. But Moira disagrees. "Not divine," she says, "just listening well enough." Then, something changes again. Fiona brings you a stone, not a coin. A stone, small, smooth, hollowed by water. Inside it, a tiny sprig of heather, pressed so delicately it's still green. She says she found it on her windowsill. Says it wasn't there the night before. You cut it open carefully. Inside, carved in letters barely larger than grain. The circle is ready. You and Moira stare at it for a long time. "What circle?" she asks. You don't answer, because you already know. That night, under a moon the color of old parchment, you walk to the hollow. You expect the tree to greet you. It doesn't. It's gone. In its place, a ring of standing stones. 12, tall, pale, newly uncovered. One for each person who placed a coin in the bowl. One for each name whispered by the glen. You see your name etched in the base of the southernmost one. And beneath your name, a word, right. The others join slowly. No one speaks, because no one has to. The air hums. You each take a place in front of your stone. Moira's reeds, thread. Dougal's, keeper. Fiona's, seed. You all stand silently until the crows arrive. They do not perch. They land, in the center of the ring, one by one, until there are 12. Then the oldest woman in the village, Agnes, walks between you all carrying the bowl. You hadn't seen her leave her house in months. She holds it out to you, empty, but full of waiting. You don't place anything inside. You breathe, and the bowl accepts it. Then Moira breathes, then Dougal, then Fiona. Each breath lingers like mist, swirls inside, builds. The bowl glows faintly, not with fire, with memory. You don't speak the ritual. You remember it. Together you lift your palms. The crows lift their wings. The stones shimmer. And suddenly, you're not just standing in a ring. You're inside a story being told by the land itself. A spiral within a spiral. A loop nested in soil. A remembering so strong it anchors time. And in that moment, everything stops. Even your breath. Even your fear. Even yourself. There is no you. There is only we. The glen inhales, and finally exhales. The crows depart, the glow fades, the stone's dimension. But the bowl still waits. Agnes hands it to you. You'll know when. Then she turns and walks back into the night. She is never seen again. You and the others return to the village. Your hands are warm, your chest is light. The bells ring. Once, twice, 3 times. For remembrance, for return, for readiness. You sleep soundly that night, not because the world is safe, but because it remembers how to listen. You wake to quiet, not silence. No, silence is sterile. This is different. This is the hush of an orchestra just before the conductor lifts their hand. The glen doesn't sleep anymore, but it's listening, always listening. To you, to itself, to the spirals etched deep in stone and skin and memory. You sit up slowly, brushing frost from your windowsill. The pattern's there again. The spiral, not carved, grown. Moira is already waiting by the gate, wrapped in her thickest shawl, hair braided with red thread, the color of remembering. She doesn't wave, doesn't smile, just nods. Today is the day. You walk beside her through streets so still they might have been drawn in ink. Each door you pass has a stone on its stoop, smooth and engraved with a single word. Return, witness, anchor, begin. Yours, you know without checking, says Spiral. At the ridge, the cairns shimmer faintly, not glowing, no, pulsing, like breath, like a heartbeat slow and steady and ancient. The bowl sits at the center again, full now, not with coins, not with fire, but with memory so thick it hums in the air. You're not alone. Fiona arrives carrying a candle that doesn't flicker. Dougal brings a sheep. Its wool is marked with spirals, painted in ochre. It walks silently beside him, like it understands the gravity of this moment. Children gather, each one holding a small object, a feather, a ribbon, a stone, a button, bits of the past, tokens, keys. The village has come. No one called them. They knew. You take your place at the southern cairn, the one with your name. It's warm to the touch. It always is now. Moira stands across from you, her hands pressed together, lips moving in silent rhythm. The bowl begins to rise. No hands touch it. It simply lifts, hovering just above the frost-crusted grass, and then it turns, slowly, spiraling in place. With each rotation, a low hum resonates outward. The crows arrive, spiraling too, landing not on branches, but shoulders, heads, cairns. You don't flinch. This is how it has always been. Agnes appears, not walking, not floating, just arriving. She places her palm gently atop the bowl and it stills. She looks at you all, eyes brighter than any torch. It is time. Not for war, not for flight, for offering. One by one, the villagers step forward, not with speeches, with memories. A boy hums the lullaby his mother sang before the plague took her voice. An old man places his wedding ring in the bowl. He never remarries. He never wanted to forget. A woman lays down a lock of hair from her daughter, who was buried before she could be named. Each offering is accepted, not consumed, not taken, held. When it's your turn, you don't bring a thing. You bring a story. You open your mouth and let the spiral speak through you. Not in words, in knowing. You share the wind in the stones, the moment the river reversed, the night Sioris disappeared, the warmth of the tree blooming light and memory and forgiveness. You tell of the bowl's weight in your hands, of the glen's voice humming in your blood, of the dreams that weren't dreams. You tell it all, and when you finish, the bowl flashes once, then sinks slowly into the earth. The ground seals without a sound. You all know what it means. It will not return. Not in this way. Not in this form. The spiral has turned. You all stand in silence, not mourning, not celebration, knowing. And then the wind picks up. But it's not cold. It wraps around your arms like a shawl, brushes your cheeks like the hand of someone long missed. It carries music. Music you've never heard, but always known. The crows take flight in unison, forming a spiral above the cairns, their wings whispering secrets only the soil can decipher. Fiona's candle extinguishes, not by wind, but by will. Dougal's sheep lies down, eyes closed, breathing steady. Agnes fades, not dies, fades, like mist returning to sky. You walk back slowly. No one speaks. You don't need to. The village breathes as one. Some people begin rebuilding old cottages. Some head into the forest to gather herbs. A child begins to sketch spirals in the dirt. That night, the stars spiral inward again. But they don't blink out. They stay. You lie in bed, awake but resting, listening to the bells that don't ring anymore but still echo in your bones, to the tree that isn't there but still shades your dreams, to the bowl that vanished but still weighs warm in your chest. You think of the generations that came before, the ones that forgot, the ones that remembered, the ones who tried, the ones who failed. And you know, without doubt, it was never about succeeding. It was about carrying the spiral. Even when it cut into your palm, even when it was too heavy to hold, even when the world told you it wasn't real, you carried it. And now, it carries you. You drift toward sleep. You do not resist. You do not fear. The spiral does not promise peace, it promises return. And tonight, you have returned to the glen, to yourself, to the story that remembered you. The fire has gone out, but its warmth lingers, not in the air, not on your skin, but somewhere deeper, somewhere quiet. You lie there, eyes closed, breath slow, and realize that the cold doesn't reach you anymore, because something older is keeping you warm now. Not a flame, not a blanket, but memory. The kind of memory that lives in stone and riverbed and lullaby. The kind that breathes even after voices fall silent. The kind that doesn't need to shout because it remembers. The glen has exhaled. It has given up its last secrets, not in riddles or signs, but in silence. That profound, sacred kind of quiet that follows when everything has finally been said. And now, it's your turn to rest. You feel it in your chest first, a lightness where once there was weight, all the holding, all the carrying, all the fear that maybe you were too small, too late, too forgetful. It's gone now. The spiral didn't demand perfection. It only asked that you show up. And you did. Over and over. Even when you were tired, even when the bowl was empty, even when the wind howled so loud it nearly drowned out the knowing inside you. You showed up. And now the story is full again. The cairns have gone still. They no longer pulse or hum, but they glow, not with light, but with something quieter. Contentment, maybe. Or peace, or just presence. You roll onto your side, fingers brushing the grass. It's dewy, damp, alive. There's a stone beside your hand, not engraved, not marked, just placed by someone, or by the glen itself. A gentle reminder that not everything needs a name to be sacred. The stars above you form no constellations you recognize, but somehow they feel familiar, like scars on the sky, like freckles on the face of something ancient, something watching, something that has waited so long for someone to listen. And now you've listened, you've remembered, not everything, but enough. Enough to turn the spiral, enough to bring it back to center, enough to sleep without fear. A crow stirs on the roof nearby, but doesn't take flight. It knows there's nowhere to go tonight more important than here. The sheep are breathing in rhythm, like a great woolen choir, their lullaby woven into the wind. Moira is curled near the hearth. Her hand rests on the floor, palm open, not reaching, not holding, just open. The way memory needs us to be, the way the spiral teaches us to be. Open to return, open to release, open to rest. You let out a breath you didn't know you were holding, and the earth answers with its own. It rises to meet you, not fast, not heavy, just enough to say, you're not falling, you're being held. And suddenly, the weight of your body feels sacred. Every scar, every tear, every inch of skin that's ever been warmed by sun or pierced by wind. It belongs here. You belong here. You don't need to explain why. The bowl beneath the cairns didn't ask for reasons. It asked for presence, and you gave it. Now the bowl is buried again. Not lost, just sleeping. It hums gently beneath the soil, like a heartbeat under blankets. The kind of sound you only hear when your mind has gone soft and your guard has gone quiet. You drift. But this isn't sleep yet. It's something deeper, a returning to the body, to the breath, to the oldest story of all, that you are not alone, that memory is not a burden, that forgetting is not failure, that returning is sacred, that rest is part of the rhythm. That rest is a form of remembering too. You let the final images melt across your mind, soft as candle wax, the bowl in your hands, the tree blooming with light, the spiral drawn in frost on the window, the word on your stone, the sound of bells that no longer need to ring, because you carry their echo in your bones now, and you will carry it for as long as you breathe, and even after. Not for duty, not for legacy, but for love, for the kind of love that doesn't need applause, the kind that lights a fire no one else sees, the kind that lays down one small stone and trusts that someone, someday, will add another. That's the love that built the cairns. That's the love that turned the spiral. That's the love that now surrounds you. And you feel it now, cradling you, lulling you, curling around your fingers like smoke from a hearth that never dies. The glen is quiet. The spiral is full. The bowl is resting. And you are home. Sleep, keeper. Sleep. Tomorrow the story will begin again. But tonight, you are the story.